Ah, buttonholes. Oh, the beautiful buttonholes the Pfaff sewing machines do is all because of their precise buttonhole foot. It's going to plug in. We can tell it exactly the length that the buttonhole is, and with just a push of the button, it's going to go ahead and stitch the whole buttonhole from start to finish. So let me show you a couple things. You do actually have 2 buttonhole feet in with this machine. So on some of the buttonholes, they'll recommend just 5M, and that's the one that doesn't plug in. And that you can actually do, well, you could do gigantic buttonholes if you wanted to, where this one will be limited to the space that the buttonhole foot allows to travel. So start off with the button in your hand. Come up to the little measuring tool right here in the light blue and measure from the top down. I see this one is about 17 millimeters long as a button. And as I've picked stitch number 27, that's one of the first buttonholes on here, but you could pick, oh my goodness, there's all sorts of different styles. Actually, let me pick 28 because the 27 is the thinner one. 28 is a little bit thicker one, more your normal size. The first one's for like a really lightweight fabric. The other thing, before I actually put this on, I want you to point out just a couple things. It will plug in. As soon as I plug in, the symbols on the screen are going to change because right now it's set to do what would be considered a manual buttonhole, where you would touch the reverse button to actually tell it when to turn around and do the next step. But when I actually plug this in, and I'm going to just do it, the plug-in is halfway between the front and back of the machine, just a little behind the needle threader. And when you actually plug it in, watch the screen. See what it does? It changes to where it says 18, and there's a arrow to the left or to the right. So whatever number you've measured, go ahead and dial that in. So let's do the 17 that we said. And we have no dual feed, so we'll want to make sure that's disengaged. A little symbol for stabilizer comes on screen. So yes, having your buttonhole fabric stabilized either with interfacing or a tearaway stabilizer is really going to make a difference. The other thing is there's a little red arrow here, and there's a little dimple. It's not all the way at the end, but it's about a quarter, well actually more than a quarter, it's almost a half an inch away from the end of the foot. So when those two line up and you lower the presser foot down, this will start and do the whole buttonhole from start to finish. And I don't even have to technically hold it. So let's just go ahead and stitch. You do have, the tension has already been reduced, so we get a really pretty looking buttonhole. You'll notice that it's going to stitch away from us first, and then stitch the left side of the buttonhole with the satin stitch. Stitch away from us again and do the tack and then do the right side. Now the little tail that you see right here is because my very first buttonhole, that tail is usually on top of my foot, but I'm going to just trim that out, and when we go to sew the next one, actually it'll be down below. Now the reason it's stitched away from us and then towards us with the satin stitches is so both those satin stitches look identical when we're done. Just keep your foot on the foot control. Let it finish with the tacking stitch, the locking stitch, and my foot is still on the foot control and it has stopped sewing. So lift up the foot, pull it out. There was a cut at the end, and look how pretty that buttonhole is. So if I wanted to do it again, all I need to do is just make sure that that little arrow is lined up with that little mark on the silver part of the foot. I might even hand turn my needle down into the starting place of my next buttonhole, make sure I'm right where I need to be, and then just go ahead and stitch. Once you've tested it by opening this one, you'll know that you are set to do the rest of the buttonholes on your project. So next we're actually going to do a corded buttonhole and show you what it takes to cord a buttonhole. You have also eyelets and you have bar tacks on this machine. So, and sewing on buttons. So you never have to sew one of these buttons on by hand ever again.